this great interaction between Yaakov and Eisav teaches us so much about our own approach to the Yetzer Hara. Welcome to the Nesiva Shalom All Parsha for Parshas Vayishlach. We hear those words of Yaakov Avinu every year. Hatzileni na miyad Achi miyad Eisav. Save me, please, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Eisav. And the question is obvious and brought in many svarim, and the Rebbe brings it as well. Why does it have to say miyad twice? And why does it say my brother? Even if it would say my brother Eisav, which is redundant because he only has one brother, it certainly could say miyad Achi Eisav, from the hand of my brother Eisav. And so there's an element of two different things going on here, which is very clear and explained in many different ways. The Rebbe here says that Yaakov Avinu knew that this entire contact is the contact between Kedusha and the framework of Ra, the framework of evil that will try to destroy Kedusha. And therefore, Yaakov Avinu split his camp into two. Vayachatz es ha'am asher ito, and he made them into two different machanos. If he'll come and hit one of them, then the other one will remain. There's an element of how to survive the battle against the Yetzer Hara that Yaakov Avinu was waging right here. And this is how the Rebbe explains it. There are two camps in the service of Hashem. One is the camp in the service of Hashem that's Kulo Kedusha, a person who approaches life, perhaps he's learning full-time or has some other framework of staying within the framework of Kedusha and does not carry a regular job out there in the world. That is called one camp. That's Kulo Kedusha. And we could refer to that as Miyad Achi, from the hand of my brother, because that's a comfortable space. However, that space also has a Yetzer Hara that can drag us down. And the Rebbe warns of this in many places, that it could have a person, their mind could turn towards Pinios Vigeus, elements of how my mind serves me to say, look at how great I am, or whatever it will mean, how I use the Torah as a kardam lachporbo, how I abuse the approach that I'm supposed to have when I'm zocha to be only within the misgeras HaKedusha. The other person is involved in this world. In fact, the Gemara in Brachos tells us that the involvement in this world is the normal. It's the normative approach. As we know, the Gemara says in the beginning of the fourth parak in Brachos, there's a machlokes and harbe asu k'Rabbi Bar Yochai v'lo alsav yadam. Many people did like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, where they only were involved in Kedusha, no involvement in agricultural life at all, and it did not work out for them. And the Gemara seems to conclude that indeed the majority have to involve themselves in regular work. Here too, there's a very difficult and possible challenge when we're in the space of Miyad Eisav. Again, Yaakov Avinu is davening for himself and for all of us. Hatzileni na, save me please, not just the physical salvation of being alive, but perhaps we can even call it the more important salvation of being connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and not transgressing. Here I'm in the workplace. Here I'm involved in things that are not necessarily in their basic framework elements of Kedusha, but rather business and other types of matters. And so he's davening Miyad Achi Miyad Eisav, because here there's also a tremendous possible downfall. Because indeed, as we said, it's the proper course of action for most. But it's dangerous. It can drag us down. The Rebbe says a tremendous chiddush that he brings from the Beis Avram in the name of an earlier Kadmon. That we know there is a concept of we should always involve ourselves in Torah, even shelo lishma, even for the wrong intention. And everyone knows shemito shelo lishma, ba lishma. From involvement in Torah for the wrong intention, it leads to the right intention. But says the Beis Avram that the opposite is true regarding the elements of this worldly matters. I go into it lishma, but be careful, because mitoch shel lishma ba lelo lishma. Even though you entered it for lishma, but it could end up chas v'shalom, from the engagement, from the involvement, from the amount of involvement that one can have, that it could go down the wrong way. Again, as we said, it's the right way, and it's for most people. It's a beautiful way. As the Maggid of Mizrach says, and the Rebbe brings in many places, Mala ha'aretz kinyanecha. The world is filled with those things that you created. That's the simple shot of Mala ha'aretz kinyanecha. But the Rebbe says, and the Maggid says, Mala ha'aretz kinyanecha means that the world is filled with ways for you to acquire me. Mala ha'aretz, the world is filled with kinyanecha, the ways of acquiring you, Hashem. The workplace, honesty, kiddushem shamayim. It's very good, but both sides are dangerous. Whether one is involved in the world of Torah and Avoda only, and then he could chas v'shalom have the wrong sense of his own haughtiness or his wrong intentions, or if one is involved in the general world out there, and chas v'shalom, even though he got involved for the right reasons, it could drag him down. This is what the Rebbe is saying, is talking about when we're davening, when Yaakov Avinu davened to Hashem, miyad Achi, miyad Eisav. And later on, Yaakov Avinu davens, and he says, Pen yavovi kani aim al banim, lest chas v'shalom, he'll come and hit me, aim al banim. This basically means mother and children together. But the Rebbe says that the concept of aim, and he says this in other places as well, about the concept of fathers, parents, that's the concept of machshavos, of thoughts, of approaches. Banim means the expression of these thoughts through actions. The toldos, the outcome, the offspring of my thoughts. And so he says, for the one who's involved in Torah Avoda only, Pen Yavovi Kani Aim, Chas V'Shalom, the Sitra Achra, the power that is Eisav and the Yetzer Hara can come and destroy my machshavos. It can send me to the wrong way. Or Albanim, or at Chas V'Shalom, it could take me down in my actions. That's speaking particularly to the second camp. Either way, what Yaakov Avinu was saying is that it's dangerous out there. Be careful. Be mispalo. But there's a third element. Miyad Achi, miyad Eisav is different than Im Lavan Garti. You see, Yaakov Avinu begins and says, I lived with Yavan, and there I fulfilled all the Taryag mitzvos. I overcame that klipa, that root of evil that is Lavan. Well, that root of evil that's Lavan is different than that of Eisav. Because Lavan is not my brother. Lavan is that unadulterated negativity. But Eisav is a mix. Eisav is a confusion. Iruv Tovara, the mixture of evil and positivity, that is the hallmark of what happened to us when man ate from the Eitz Hadas. When we ate in Gan Eden, what happened was the Yetzer Hara that was outside came inside. And suddenly mixed together was good and evil. You see, that kind of challenge can be the hardest of all of them. Lavan, I wiped him out already. I don't have to worry about him. But now my brother, Miyad Achi, Miyad Eisav, and Eisav is always called his brother. Vayishlach Yaakov malachim lefanav el Eisav achiv. He sent him to Eisav his brother. This is redundant. The Rebbe says, we all know that he's his brother. He only has one brother. The element here is that there is a negativity that is mixed with the positivity. That's Eisav. That's how Yitzchak Avinu could be so connected to Eisav, because he wasn't Kulo Ra. That is the danger in the world that we live in, where there's so many things mixed together. Buy something, and you say, I'm going to spend this huge amount of money in this great indulgent food. L'chavod Shabbos. Sometimes it is L'chavod Shabbos. Sometimes it's not so L'chavod Shabbos. Maybe it's just for my indulgence. It's Iruv Tovara. It's a certain gaiva associated with the way I perform mitzvahs. A certain gaiva or indulgence associated with what seems to be holy. But it's Iruv Tovara. There's a mixture of good and bad, indulgence, showing off, whatever it may be. This is the hallmark of what happened to us in Gan Eden. The Rebbe says the Melech HaMashiach will be the one who comes to separate again the Tov from the Ra, so that we can fight in a way that we don't have the challenge of the Eisav confusion, but rather it's just against Lavan, and that, as it were, is a little bit easier. The Melech HaMashiach will come and divide these. That's why the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that Mashiach will only come to a generation that's either fully great or fully chayav, or fully, guilty of crime. Ask the Rebbe, that doesn't make any sense. Through all the generations, the tzaddikim, good things, bad things, now Mashiach will come when there's only bad? Answer is that means that the world will have been separated, that there no longer will be this horrible challenge of the mixture of Tov and Ra. And that is who Eisav is. And that's why Yaakov Avinu says, Hatzileni na miyad achi miyad Eisav. Save me, please, from the mixture of my brother and of the negativity. The mixture that looks like serve Hashem this way, but then you get lost in it. Serve Hashem that way, and then there's challenges. The bottom line for us is that whether you view it as one camp and the other camp, or the mixture of two camps, what Yaakov Avinu is teaching us is that we have to be mispalel. We have to daven that we should overcome the Yetzer Hara. The Rebbe says later in Parshas Vayigash, in Parshas Vayechi, the Rebbe says that Ana Hashem Hoshiana, Ana Hashem Atzlichana at the end of Hallel is a statement, please save me, Sur Meira. Please let the bad stuff get away from me, that I shouldn't Chas V'Shalom be choitesh, I shouldn't Chas V'Shalom sin. And please help me, Asay Tov, that I should be successful. It's true that we're davening that people should be saved. And we're davening that Klal Yisrael should be saved. But the great salvation that we have to daven for more than any is that the neshama should be saved from the Yetzer Hara. Hatzileni na miyad achi miyad Eisav. Help me whether I go in the path that's Kula Torah, but there may be a problem with my machshavos. Help me whether I go on the path that involves work and study, work and ruchnias. Malaharis Kianecha, it's such an admirable thing, but chas v'shalom, it could lead to the wrong thing. The aim al banim, it could lead to the wrong outgrowths. And chas v'shalom, save me, please, Hashem, from the mixture and tovara that is the gullus, that is the exile, that is the time so far away from where we need to be. Separate the evil from the good, so that we might be able to see good properly. And Mashiach will show us the proper way. Good Shabbos.